Noswaith i chi gyd. Good afternoon and welcome to Carlam Cymru revision sessions. This session will focus on GCSE Business. Will be presented by Mrs. Lacey from Haddon High. The session will last around 45 minutes where the teacher will go through all the relevant subject content. If you have any questions, please use the Q&A section and we will try to answer your question during the session. The session will be recorded with a recording and any resources uploaded to the e-sgol website in the Carlam Cymru area. Over to you, Mrs. Lacey.
Hello, good afternoon, everybody. So we're going to be looking at business activity today, topic 1 of the GCSE spec, purely because business activity really does cover quite a lot of the business papers of both Unit 1 and Unit 2. And you quite often find that quite a lot of the shorter answer questions are to do with business activity. And the fact that with business activity, you might have 1 or 2 longer answer questions as well. So it is a kind of a key topic to make sure that you're aware of. So we're just going to crack on with it. So the session focus, I'm going to try, if I can, get every single bit of business activity into this session if I've got time. So we're going to be looking at the nature of business activity, providing goods and services, business enterprise, business planning, business aims and objectives, business ownership, business growth, business location and site, and the independent nature of business is what we're going to try and cover this afternoon. Okay, so just wanted to come first of all to the exam questions and the AOs, AO1, AO2 and AO3, because I think it's really important to know what you're obviously going to be getting marked on. In the exam, AO1 is your demonstration of knowledge, and that's quite often the shorter answer questions. AO2 is the applying your knowledge and understanding of business concepts and issues to a variety of business contexts. Now, this is one bit that a lot of students really struggle with, and certainly with the longer answer questions, that's where you fall down on quite a lot of the time, because you're not applying your knowledge to the actual scenario that's given to you. So I really want you to think about during the course of these sessions really focusing in on AO2, because AO1 generally for a lot of you are quite good, you're quite strong at it, you know you've got some good knowledge, but you're not applying it, and that's where you may be losing a lot of marks. And then AO3 is generally coming on the longer answer questions, so like your 6, 8 and 10 mark questions, where you're having to analyse and evaluate and make judgments and draw conclusions. And you'll notice that the AO3 is overall 24 marks for Unit 1, and that's because of the fact that you haven't got as many longer answer questions in there, but still it's a big chunk of marks, especially if you're looking for your A and Bs. Okay, so first of all, starting off, what is a business? So business is an organisation that produces a good or supplies a service. So physical goods are things you can touch, so like a car, a computer. A service is an intangible item, so things that you can't touch. So for example, hairdressing, financial advice, anything, window cleaner, things like that. Business involves people, sometimes 1 or sometimes thousands. So you could be a sole trader where you've just got 1 person involved with the business, or you could be a public limited company where you're a global business that employs thousands and thousands of people. A customer is someone who buys a product or service. So just to re-familiarise yourself with those key terms. We've then got customer v consumer. Okay, so if your parents buy it for you, so customer is someone who buys a product and the products are used by the consumers. So if you buy a mobile phone and use it, you are the customer and the consumer. If your parents buy it for you, then it is the parents, the customer, and you are the consumer of that product. Okay. Right, we've got 4 business functions. Okay, really good in business planning as well to remember these functions if you're looking at business plans. So you've got human resources, you've got the finance section, functionality of business, you've got marketing, and you've got operations. As you can kind of see by this diagram, they all interlink. And we're going to be looking at that in the next slide. So they are all connected within a business, and that's why this diagram is as it is with regards to that. So interdependent business. So it means that everything's linked together. So for example, if you were a marketing and you were generating more sales, or you may be doing a promotional campaign, or you were doing some sort of advertising drive on your product, you are maybe going to require more production, okay, which then in turn will require longer hours from staff, which is your human resources. And then if revenue from the extra sales covers the cost, this leads to more profit, which is your finance section of the business. So it's all interlinked. So we're going to look at, first of all, business enterprise. Now, what I need to do is try and get it off. So hang on a minute. I don't want this bar down here. Let's see if I can get rid of it. Ideally, I don't want this showing. It's going to cut off some of my things. Don't think I can get rid of it. Oh, there we go. That's good. Right, okay, so I'm going to be using some of these knowledge sheets, and you can find these on the WJC website, and they're really, really useful just to kind of bring everything down into one sheet on each of the different sections, and they have them for every single topic. So during the course of these revision sessions, I am going to be using these quite a lot because it's right in front of you. I'm not teaching to an entire class, because I wouldn't use this obviously with a whole class with it on the board, because it's just too small for people to see. I would have broken it down. But because you've got it right in front of you, it is easier to see and easier to read. So we're going to be looking at business enterprise. Okay, so business enterprise is the formation of a new business or development of a new good or service, okay, to introduce to the market. Okay, so that's what it is. Now, quite often you will have a question on business enterprise, and we'll look at some examples of some questions in a little bit. But things like, why do people want to set up their own business? Well, there's a list of things there on that left-hand side of the screen. So you've got personal ambition. Maybe they've always wanted to do it. They might have an interest. They might have to keep the family business running. They might want to reward their own efforts. They could exploit an opportunity, maybe in a gap in the market, in the community. Maybe it's a social enterprise that they want to provide the local community with something. It could be that they're using skills and previous jobs. Maybe they've been made redundant and that they need to actually go ahead and get themselves a job, so they want to open their own business. It could be that they want to be their own boss, so they want to be in control of what their what hours they work, how much profit they're making, what their flexibility of employment is. Maybe there's no work available in the local community and they've got no choice but to try and make their own business. It might be to use qualifications that they've got. Maybe they've got a degree in the particular field that they're opening the business for. Maybe they want to encourage, they're encouraged by the government. So the government quite often, Welsh Government quite often use incentives and financial reward or loans or things like that, grants for people to set up businesses, because it is something for the government, a good thing that people are setting up businesses, because that's going to obviously reduce unemployment. It could be redundancy, as I mentioned before, and the fact that they are easy to set up if you were as a sole trader, for example. Okay, so if you've got a question, and we'll look at the questions in a minute, those are the sort of things that you'd be putting down. Then you've got an entrepreneur. So what is an entrepreneur? Well, that's a person who sets up a business by taking on financial risks in the hope of making a profit. Okay, so that's what your entrepreneur is. And they are responsible for bringing together the other factors of production, land, labour and capital to create a business. So you've got characteristics that are for an entrepreneur. So you might have a question about what the characteristics of an entrepreneur, for example. So you've got things like initiative. Okay, so they take action. They they think of an idea and they put it into action. That they're innovative. That they maybe have lots of good ideas. It might be that they identify opportunities, spotting a gap in the market. They're organising resources. They're organised. They have knowledge, they are competent, and they have things like they setting up a business, that they have survival, that they have an idea, they show initiative. So all these qualities and characteristics, you know, make an entrepreneur successful. Okay, so what motivates an entrepreneur? Well, you've got financial, so things like profit, employment for the self. They know they're working for their own family, that the financial security for the family. They've got non-financial, like self-satisfaction, maybe being your own boss, filling the gap in the market. And then you've got community, so maybe that they're wanting to do something for the local community, that maybe they found that in the community they don't really have a dog walking business, and there's lots of people that are requiring a dog walking service, that they maybe want to introduce something like that into the community. Maybe that the community doesn't have a local shop anymore, and they want to sort of introduce that into the community. It could be maybe some sort of charity organisation or whatever it might be. So then you've got the rewards of being an entrepreneur, and you've got the risks. So you've got lots of rewards, again, all there for you that you can have a read through, but you can earn money, be your own boss, you can work your own hours. You know, you've got maybe a good, better work-life balance. You know, you're working for yourself, you've got self-satisfaction. Then you've got risks. Now, again, it comes with financial potential loss, because many businesses within the first year fail. Certainly within the first 5 years potentially fail. Okay, so you need to make sure that you've got your good idea, you've got a business plan, you've done lots of market research to try and make sure that that isn't going to be one that person's that's starting off the business. You've got low sales, maybe unexpected costs. If we think about, you know, the last few years in COVID, and I wouldn't be surprised if COVID came up in your exam. So the last few years with COVID, you know, that was never going to be, wouldn't have been expected. So lots of businesses, you know, found it very difficult to have maybe, you know, closed because they've had to adapt, they've had to be dynamic. You know, it could be the potential long hours, because especially if you are the only one running that business, it's going to be stressful. It's going to be maybe long hours. You've got the lots of security that you have, you know, a paid job that you go to that's very secure. You know, it's all on you. There could be a lot of stress, damage to reputation. If, for example, your business fails, could be something, maybe a loss of home. So lots of things to think about there. You are probably guaranteed, I would say, to get a question about business enterprise and an entrepreneur. It comes up quite a lot in the papers. Now, we've only got one full paper to work on, really, with 2019, because obviously with COVID, but certainly on the WJEC website there are lots of other exam papers from the old spec that are still relevant and are still useful. Obviously they are more sort of unit 1 questions rather than unit 2, but still the principle is the same. Okay, so this is an exam question from 2019. Bella's Boutiques is owned and run by Isabella Davies, a sole trader in Colwyn Bay, North Wales. The business has only been open for 1 year and specialises in wedding dresses, bridesmaid dresses, prom outfits and women's accessories. The business has been successful, and Isabel won New Entrepreneur of the Year in 2018 Local Business Awards. Outline the role of an entrepreneur. So what I'd like you to do now is pause the video, and I would like you to write an answer for that, please. Okay, so we should have taken into account the marks with that, so it's worth 4 marks. So I'm just very clearly just going to put the actual mark scheme up there. So this is an AO1 question, so this is purely knowledge based. Okay, now it wants 4 marks, so you're going to be looking at 1 mark for each suitable suggestion. Now it's only giving you 2 marks for characteristics, so I would say in any question that you are writing about an entrepreneur, maximum 2 marks with characteristics. So if, for example, you know, that they are very organised, that they are willing to take risks, so anything to do with their character, 2 marks. Outline the role of an entrepreneur. Well, they set up a business, they have an idea, maybe they have an initiative. The business owners, they run a business, they earn the profits and make money. they take the risks, face the uncertainties, and they suffer the consequences of failure are the things that you should be putting along with maybe 2 of the characteristics. So any 4 of those would have gotten you the 4 marks. So always do take note of the marks. Quite often, sometimes they might allow you to expand on an answer in order to get 2 marks, but on this one they haven't. So you know, sometimes it's difficult to tell what they would accept and what they wouldn't do, but I would always try and advise you to really kind of overcompensate on answers to try and get as many marks as possible if you've got time. Ideally, you want to be trying to, you know, a minute a mark, something like that, in order for you to get the best out of it. Okay. This is another one. So Christopher Williams has worked in retail. This is from 2017. I know it's not 2019, but I mean, we have got limited exam questions because we've only got 1 paper to work from. So certainly looking back over those past old spec questions is going to be suitable, and it's going to be something that is going to be useful to you. So in 2016, he was made redundant. He believed that he had the characteristics to be a successful entrepreneur. He came up with the idea to set up his own sports shop called CW Sports and use his redundancy money to set it up. Explain 2 reasons why an individual such as Christopher may wish to set up his own or her business. Okay, so this is worth 4 marks. Now it said 2 reasons. So here, what you need to make sure of in order to get the 4 marks overall is you make the point and you have to expand on it. Okay, so I probably would always use the word therefore, okay, for this. So you'd make your point, therefore it has this effect. Make another point, therefore it has this effect. Okay, so I'd like you to pause the video again, and I would like you to have a go at doing this question, please. Okay, so the answers for this is suggesting a reason times by 2 and then explain or expand it. Okay, so your conclusions might be, so personal ambition, maybe that he's always wanted to do it, he's building his own business. I mean, the therefore maybe doesn't quite work in this one. Maybe be passionate about the product. Maybe he's keeping the family business running, he's taken over from a family member to reward own efforts, to exploit an opportunity, maybe identify a gap in the market, maybe there's no other sports shop available in the community and he's wanting to put that back into the community. It could be that he's a very, you know, he's got real interests in sports and he's wanting to really kind of like put his interest into that business. Anything like that, but try making sure that you've expanded on those answers is going to hopefully get you those 4 marks overall in the exam. Okay. So we're going to look at goods and services now. Again, coming back to these posters, and again, they're available on the WJEC website. You can download them yourself. For my students, I am going to be printing them off as more of like a revision booklet for them, so that they've got them all together along with some exam questions that we've been preparing. So goods and services. So you've got sectors of industry. So you've got the primary sector of industry, the secondary sector. So primary is raw materials, so farming, mining, forestry. You've got your secondary sector, which is your raw materials manufactured into goods, so at the factory level. Then you've got the tertiary. Now, tertiary is businesses in the sector to provide a service. So like a retailer, a hotel, a school, a restaurant. You know, you're providing a service, beautician, hairdresser, whatever it might be. Your chain of production. So this links the primary and secondary and tertiary sectors together in the production process. Okay, so as you can see that little diagram there, primary to secondary to tertiary. So you've got consumers, so we looked at that before. You've got needs, you know, people have needs that actually want. You know, you might need bread and water, but you're choosing to have, you know, a cheese sandwich and or a bottle of Coke. Wants, items you would like to have but are not necessary. Okay, so like TV, mobile phones, holidays, cars, things like that. You've got your goods, which is your tangible items, your things that you can actually touch. You've got consumer goods, which are produced for the final customer, so cars, food, consumer goods, which is your final product. Then you've got your producer goods, also known as capital goods, were produced for other businesses to be able to produce other goods and services, so vehicles, computers, robots, furniture, fixtures, etc. You've got durable, so durable goods that last for a long time, so that you're not going to be replacing or you're not going to be using quite regularly, as in you know, buying, you know, weekly. TV, mobile phones, washing machines, tables, furniture. And then you've got your non-durable. So these are more your single-use items. So goods which are immediately used for consumption. So an ice cream, for example, a sandwich, a ready meal, whatever that might be. Services, you've got things that you can't touch, and we've talked about the services. We've got personal services, which are provided for individuals. They include services for personal grooming, house maintenance, car repair. And then you've got commercial services. These are provided for businesses. So it might be transport, warehousing, a canteen in an actual business itself, and you're providing it for that particular business. And then you've got markets, so where buyers and sellers meet in order to exchange goods and services, often for money. And then the retailers and what they do. So they display the goods, promote them, sell them, give them to customers, distribute them. They can offer credit and those sort of things with the retailers who've got a list of things there. Obviously, you can always go over this if you need to. So exam questions on goods and services. So this is from the 2015 paper, just to give you an idea. So I would like you to pause the video and have a little look to see whether you could do this without seeing the answers. So what are term services? So that's non-physical production. So it's intangible, something, process, activity that's done for others. And then you've got consumer goods. So these are to be sold, bought by people, maybe the public, final customer, used by the final customer. And then you've got producer goods, which is goods which are sold by one business to another. Okay, so maybe the raw materials to make a ready meal, for example, would be a producer good. Right, so let's look at business ownership. So it's quite a big topic, business ownership. So you've got the public sector, which is your NHS and your police, your education, your armed forces. You've got your private sector, which is everybody else. So ones that businesses that are run by private individuals. So if you needed advice to start up a business, you've got different things that you could go to. So Business Wales, commercial banks, Prince's Trust and British Chambers of Commerce. Then you've got things like unlimited liability. Okay, now this means that the owners of the business are responsible for all the debts of the business. So personal belongings may need to be given up to pay the debt. So for example, if you owned a house, or you you had a mortgage on the house or whatever, you had equity in that house, if things went wrong in your business, then those are potentially things that could be taken in order to pay the business debt. Okay. Then you've got sole trader. Okay, so this is a business owned by one person. Now, it doesn't mean that it's just maybe one person that works there. Sole trader can employ people as well, but it's one person that owns the business, so they have one employer. Advantages of a sole trader is profit. You keep all of it. You don't need to share it. You can make decisions. You can be your own boss. You've got independence. It's easy to set up. You don't need any paperwork. Or you don't need any deed of partnership like you would have in a partnership, or any paperwork that you might have to do if you were becoming a company, and you have a job. because you might have been made redundant from your old one. Problem is, though, disadvantages: you've got unlimited liability. You've got more responsibility because you haven't got anybody to kind of talk to about the business and the decisions. It's all on you, and you might have limited sources of resources. So if you think money, you might have limited access to money. You might have limited access to bank loans because maybe they won't invest in just one person. So it does maybe bring down what resources you can actually get, and also you won't maybe have the sort of the buying power that maybe bigger companies would have because you are on your own. Then you've got partnerships. So business, if it asks you for a feature of partnership, these are the features. So business that is owned by between 2 and 20 people. There are a few exceptions for more than 20 people, like lawyer firms can have more than 20, I think, and a couple of others. Business that is owned and run by at least 2 people. So in order to be a partnership, you've got to have 2 people in there. Is an unincorporated business, and it is a business with unlimited liability still. So as a partnership, you still have unlimited liability. Sometimes people think because you're a partnership, you have limited liability, but that isn't the case. Advantages: you can raise more capital than sole traders. You can have extra skills and expertise in the business so that you're able to kind of show your skills and you focus on that part of the business and someone else focuses on somewhere else. You've got more people to make decisions. You've got shared responsibility, more flexibility. And the fact that it is more flexible, you might be able to take holidays, you can take maybe days off, whereas maybe if you're a sole trader, you might not be able to do that. And then it is easy to set up. There are no necessarily legal requirements where you might have as a company, but it is advised to set up as a deed of partnership in order to make sure that things are documented of, if that partnership was to break down, how would that sort of be split. Disadvantages, though, because you've got just more than one person, you might have disagreements. Profits have to be shared, so depending on how maybe somebody's putting in more than the other capital wise, you might split the profits differently, but again, they have to be shared. Some partners may not work as hard as others, and that's going to cause rifts in the partnership. Maybe as continuity, also applies as to a sole trader. So if as a sole trader, if somebody dies, then that business can't kind of carry on. The owners will still have unlimited liability, like we just said before. So what is a deed of partnership? So it's a legal document which is agreement between partners and sets out the rules of the partnership and how profits are divided and how maybe the business will be divided if someone decided to leave. Okay, that's kind of things that it contains that you might want to have a little read through. And then it suggests and explains 2 advantages that Sam and Mary might have being in a business partnership. So you've got those sort of examples there. We're going to go on to an exam question in a minute. Okay, why move from a sole trader to a partnership? Well, more capital, new skills, new ideas, maybe possibility of specialisation. Ideas can be shared, workload can be shared, avoid needs to employ maybe somebody. The arguments, though, for forming a partnership against forming a partnership is maybe the original sole trader will lose their independence. You're going to have to share your profits. You're going to have maybe disagreements. Decisions potentially are slower, and employing new workers. The sole trader can actually keep control of the company, but as soon as you become a partnership, you don't have full control over your business. Okay, right. I think there's one more. Obviously, business ownership, we have to also cover public and private limited companies. So you've got things like limited liability. So this is where the owners of a business are not responsible for the debts of the business. So personal belongings will not be given up to pay the debts of the business. The owners, however, will lose the money they invested in the business if it fails. So if you invest £10,000, that's what you would lose. Your house wouldn't be at risk. You know, your cars, what other assets that you have wouldn't be at risk. So you've got two types of companies. So you've got private limited company, and that's an LTD. So if you see that sort of annotation, that's what it means, private limited company. And these are owned by shareholders who have limited liability. There are shares not available to others except with the agreement of the other shareholder, and they are generally recognised with LTD after the business name. So advantages with that: you've got limited liability, you've got continuity, so that if the owner dies, the business can continue. You've got more capital. Maybe you've got specialised management where managers can do what they're skilled at, and that you invite shareholders to become members of the company. Legal procedure in setting up takes time and costs money. Is a disadvantage. Having to disclose the accounts, because as a company you have to do that. Profits have to be shared with other shareholders, and slower decision making are the disadvantages for a private limited company. Public limited company are businesses which are owned by shareholders who have limited liability again. The shares are available to others by selling to general public, often on the stock exchange, and they are generally recognised with the PLC after the business name. So again, you've got limited liability, you've got continuity, because the company will continue even if you know, a shareholder dies or the owner leaves. More capital, you've got specialised management again, just like you would do with a private limited. You've got, again, invite shareholders, but they're unable to maintain control. Okay. Costs of setting up with documents: you must have £50,000 share capital in order to become a public limited company. You need to share your profits. Affairs not kept private. May lose control. Need to share decision makings. They limited capital available, and you restriction on share ownership. So shares have to be agreed on the sale of shares, and also they can be listed on the stock exchange as well. Okay. Social enterprise and cooperative. So these are businesses which operate for the benefit of the community, and the cooperative is a business organised that is owned by its customers, workers, producers, members, and decision making. You're not normally asked a massive amount about social and cooperatives. You might be asked what a cooperative is, what a social enterprise is, but certainly I would say the bigger questions are going to be on sole traders, partnerships, and the two types of companies that you're going to get. And then you've got charities, so organisations set up to provide and help to raise money for disadvantaged in society. Okay, so that was a very quick whistle-stop tour of business ownership. That's quite a big chunk of business activity. So let's have a little look at question 9 on the 2019 paper. So you've got Sound as a Pound as a business in North Wales that sells as its products for £1 each. It sells a wide range of products directly to the public, including sweets, toys, household items and beauty products. It competes with national businesses like Pound World, 99p stores and Home Bargains. It has 6 stores across North Wales and employs over 100 people. Okay, so we've got Sound of the Pound. So pause the video and I would like you to have a little go at those 2 questions quickly. Okay. So the identify which of the following is best described Sound as a Pound. Well, it's a retailer, okay, is the one for that one. One advantage of Sound as a Pound operating as a private limited company. You've got looking at private limited, obviously that's on the other sheet if you wanted to have a look at it. But shareholders are chosen. So you've got no opportunity for a business to be taken over without consent. So being floated on the stock exchange or stock market, you know, you've got control over who is going to buy into your company. You've got limited liability, which means the personal possessions of owners cannot be taken. So this is a 2-mark question. So it's asking for one advantage. So just very quickly saying shareholders are chosen is not going to get you the 2 marks. So you need to have that expansion. So shareholders are chosen, therefore no opportunity for the business to be taken over without consent. Limited liability, therefore the personal possessions of the owners cannot be taken off to pay the debts of the current share of the business. So that therefore is quite useful. So if you use the therefore when you have like one of these questions where you've got an outline, one advantage, and you've got 2 marks, if you can try and get that therefore after your point, it's going to make you expand on it. Therefore, hopefully you'll get 2 marks. Okay, so using that therefore might be very useful. Okay, right, 2018 here. Dion Carpenter was employed for a number of years as a landscape gardener. When she was made redundant in 2004, she decided to set up a business as a partnership with her brother Jed, who is a highly skilled bricklayer. They use their own savings to set up the business, which provides garden, landscapes and building services to the local community of Cowbridge in South Wales. So one feature of the partnership, well, we looked at that. So feature partnership is between 2 and 20 people, you get a mark for, that it's run by at least 2 people, there's an uncooperative business, and it's a business with unlimited liability. So those 4 things would be accepted for a feature for a partnership. Advantages to Dion setting up a partnership. Now this is where people kind of don't, we'll put it general. We need to be really including, if you can try on any of the answers that are like, you know, more than maybe 2 marks, try and include the scenario within that. So you've got Dion could raise more capital if she was a sole trader. So I'm using her name in the question. It could be Dion is able to raise sufficient capital on her own. Maybe Dion will have extra skills, extra expertise in the business. It might be, you know, Dion could focus on the gardening and Jed on the building. You're kind of going back to the question to actually bring it into the answer there. And then why is it important for Dion and Jed to have a deed of partnership? Well, it's a legal document that ensures the business runs smoothly. So you've got 2 marks again. So you need to be expanding on it. So let's use that therefore. So a deed of partnership is a legal document, therefore ensures the business runs smoothly. Something like that, therefore allows you to set out the to prevent arguments. It sets out the actual how the business will be split when you're looking at maybe leaving. Okay, right, now it is a 2015 paper, but again it's a very relevant question and you could be asked it. So Judith Rutherford has been made redundant from a local business producing window blinds. She's learnt many skills both in the factory and in the office. In her locality, there are fairly high levels of unemployment, so her chances of finding another job are limited. Judith has decided to set up her own business as a sole trader, producing and selling curtains and blinds. Judith is considering taking on a business partner. Advise her on whether or not taking on a business partner would be a good idea for her and the business. 8 marks. Now, this is where the advice question is here. So you're looking at AO1, AO2 and AO3 in this question. I wrote a example answer. Now, I wouldn't necessarily say it would absolutely get full marks. I think I need to talk about sole trader a little bit more, but it certainly, I think, would score fairly highly. So what I always find with some of the students, some of my students, are that they will bullet point, especially longer answer questions, they will bullet point, or they won't set things out in paragraphs, or they'll not organise their answers properly, therefore they're going to be losing marks, or they don't relate it back to the business itself. And these are things you need in order to get high marks on these 8-10 mark questions. You need to be paragraphing, you need to be spelling, you need to be using grammar correctly, you need to be trying to get as much information in about your knowledge, but also relating it to the business. Okay, So I wrote this answer, to be honest with you, I don't even know whether the grammar's completely correct myself because I wrote it quite quickly last night, but there are many advantages and disadvantages of being a sole trader versus being within a partnership. Firstly, being a sole trader is very easy to set up. Now, this bit here, I'm going to try and write on it, but this Judith has been made redundant from her job and therefore may need to find work quickly because she's in a high employment area. Right, I've taken that from the scenario. So I'm relating my answer to the scenario. This is your AO2. Okay, so this bit here is your AO1. Sole trader is very easy to set up. AO2, I'm bringing in the actual question itself, the actual scenario. This means she can set up a business on her own without needing a deed of partnership. Again, AO1. However, being a sole trader means that all the decisions about the business are down to her. She would nobody to discuss ideas with, which would mean she might become quite stressed and overwhelmed with the business as she'd never run a business before. A little bit of AO2 there, because it hasn't said she hasn't run a business. She was in a job, she did some office work, and she also has experience with the blinds and curtains, but she doesn't actually, it doesn't say she has run a business before. So I'm assuming she hasn't, because I would have thought that would have said it, you know, within the scenario. So AO1, AO2, and the way I'm setting it out, because I'm paragraphing, because I'm bringing advantages and disadvantages, that is also, you know, how you're setting it out is also your AO3. Okay, so this is where, if, for example, on this question, I've got an AO1, I can get maybe 2 marks on AO1, maybe 3. AO2 is maybe 2 or 3 marks, and AO3 is 3 marks or whatever it might be. This is where I'm getting it from. So if you just wrote, let's say, sole trader is very easy to set up. You know, with a sole trader, decisions about the business is down to her. So if I was just writing all the AO2 stuff, the maximum I could get is maybe 2 to 3 marks. If I'm bullet pointing it, again, the maximum I would be getting is 2 to 3 marks, because the AO3 is about how you're writing it. So if you are bullet pointing, you're not going to get very many marks, even though you're showing that you know what you're talking about. So always with these particular questions, write in paragraphs. So taking on a partner would allow Judith to have someone to discuss ideas with. They will be able to help with the day-to-day running of the business. She would find it easier to take holidays and have time off because there are 2 or more people responsible for the business. Okay, so again, it's an AO1 here. You would find if she finds the correct partner that had previous business experience, this is going to give her help when setting up the business from scratch. The partners might be able to specialise in different aspects of the business. However, being in a partnership may lead to disagreements if one partner who wants to take the business in a certain direction. Judith does have lots of skills in her previous job. Again, we're looking at AO2 here. So lots of skills from her previous job. But she might not find it confident to set up her own business herself and may want to share the may not want to share profits. She may also want to find a partner that has experience within the blinds curtains industry. Again, we're looking at AO2 here and bringing in the scenario, and this may be quite a niche area to find the correct partner. Now, with this question here, the question was advise. So when you're doing an advice question, you have to, in order to get full marks or near the top, you've got to have a conclusion paragraph that gives her advice. So overall, I think it would be beneficial for Judith to take on a partner to help her set up the business. Although she has a lot of skills in the office from her previous job, she has not set up her own business. I think, again, we've got sort of AO2 here, haven't we? Previous job, lots of skills, because that's what it did say. She's got quite a lot of skills here. So again, that's a sort of an AO2. Sorry, I'm making this a bit of a mess. I think she should choose a partner carefully. She maybe had a lot of business knowledge. It would also allow her to take time off if she wants to have a holiday. There would be someone to discuss ideas with and someone to share the workload and to make the whole experience less stressful. Overall, I feel that this would be the best thing for her to do. Okay, so that final paragraph is saying, right, what do I think they should do and why? Why do I think they should do it? Okay, and it doesn't matter. I could have said overall, I think she shouldn't have taken on a partner and express the reasons why I don't think she should take on a partner. There is no right or wrong answer there. It's completely down to you what you are advising her to do. So, you know, it doesn't matter what your overall opinion is. You just need to make sure that you are in your last paragraph saying what it is. Okay. I think we're starting to come to the end of the session, if I am remembering right. Is that right? Am I on the right session?
Yes, you're coming to the end, Mrs. Lacey.
Okay.
Feel free to finish when you're ready.
Yeah, that's fine. So what I'll do, I mean, I didn't know how long this would take to go through. So what I'll leave it here, and then next week I'll start from where I left off, and then I'll add obviously any more topics that I can sort of add into it as well. Okay, so I hope you found that useful, and obviously I will try my best on our next session next week to finish off business activity and get any maybe try and get some of the other topics involved as well. Okay.